You're listening to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by Deason, Garner, and Hansen, the law firm that has been voted Yuma's best 6 years in a row.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and the Law. I'm attorney Adam Hansen, and I've got Tom Sparks with me. We've got Martine. Pleasure to have you today. And we've got Cody Beeson as well in the studio. And we were talking last segment about this idea of posting negative, or posting in general, your thoughts and your comments without having any ties to you. So we're going to call that anonymously. And my question that I posed to the group here was, is that constitutional? Should we allow that? Or should we pass legislation that says, no, you can't post something unless we can know who you are, going back to the constitutional clause that says you have the right to face your accusers in a court of law. When we are accused of a crime, that's what the Constitution allows. That's why we have due process laws in place, and the Constitution allows for that, for me to say or come to court. If you're going to accuse me of something, then I need to know who accused me, and that gives me the opportunity to cross-examine them and to go towards their credibility. And so that's what we do all the time as attorneys, is we're going to cross-examine people and get to the truth, because when you cross-examine, you're going to get down to the truth, and the jury can see that when it comes out. And so that's my question, is if I don't know who's accusing me online in these posts, how do I confront them and have a healthy discussion or engaging free speech discussion about what's really true, and address their concerns and address my concerns? How do I do that if I don't know who they are? You brought up a really good point, Martine, about the bigger your celebrity. Oh. You don't think those that have a huge celebrity orbit should be able to ethically respond to posts? Tell us about that, because I didn't really understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so I was just saying that ethically it doesn't make sense for, like, let's say someone has 1 million followers, right? When these person do ad placements and they do all these other product placements, that these followers will just go and purchase it because they like support them and they agree with their opinion about what is a good quality. But when they see that creator attacking somebody else for attacking them, it's all of a sudden makes it okay, because not only have these people developed a parasocial relationship with that creator where they think they know them as a personal level, they're starting to treat it as if somebody attacked their friend. And so now, because of that one person doing it, it suddenly made it okay for all of the followers to go and attack that person. And then that's when you see that people get doxxed online and they get, bullied tenfold from the one comment that they made. It's not ethical for a bigger creator to do it.
What do you think about that, Cody?
Yeah, I think that's part of the game. If you've built up that fan base and they are going to defend you, that's part of it. Free speech goes both ways.
What about Garth Brooks? You were talking about how his fan base can get a little rowdy.
No, there's a fan base that's after Garth Brooks. So they've actually had to lock it down. I kind of feel sad for Garth. Like, he doesn't have the ability to let his fans engage in his stuff, because there's another podcast that kind of attacks him.
What? Why though? What do they have
they think Garth? They think he's a serial killer because he's a little weird.
That is a true statement. I love Garth.
Me too, but he's weird.
If you watch any of his stuff, like
he's out of
his
touch.
Interviews, I don't know. I don't even care about that. It's just like, what are you talking about? You're weird, dude. But whatever. I've seen him 2-3 times in concert. We were supposed to go to Vegas coming up. My wife and I, we had tickets, but now we have to go to some legal conference. So we had to cancel those tickets. But he's got a residency up in Las Vegas. I'm kind of happy about that. I've seen Garth, I know all of his stuff. I've seen him a couple times, and but I didn't tell my wife that. And she doesn't listen to this, so it doesn't really matter. So I get what you're saying about being a weirdo. But he's great. He's great when it comes to music. What about Elon Musk? So Elon Musk has experienced this, right? He bought Twitter with the idea of, okay, I'm going to open this up. We're not going to censor anymore. Let's hear what people really have to say. But if he's kind of like that Gordon Loves Jiu-Jitsu guy on Instagram, like I was talking about, like he doesn't hold his opinions back anymore. He comes out there, and I guess that, to me, once you have that level of money, what's it matter? You're kind of like undoxable, you're uncancelable. What do you think about that, Martine?
I do kind of think it's a weird point where it's like you've already won the game. Like people can only try and bring you down, but you've already crossed the finish line. You've become the richest person in America. You've gone to, you've done all these things and all these feats that you kind of just get this like armor around you where you're not cancelable, you know?
Does Elon Musk have more credibility because he's a billionaire than the average person that posts on our comments, for example? So if Elon Musk came in and he posted on our little YouTube clips that you posted something negative, would that have more credibility than a person that was, I don't know, like a 30-year practicing attorney?
I think there's more to him than just his money. You know, he's also like incredibly smart. So it's kind of like if he said something about the field that we were in, and then he like just came and told us like, oh, you guys are wrong, and then said a whole bunch of hate, it'd kind of be like, well, you know, he was also right about us being wrong. So I guess him saying all these other things about us are also true.
So you're saying he does have more credibility because he's successful?
I think I think that's the wrong word. I think he has a lot of weight, but he doesn't have more credibility. So the things he says hold a lot of weight because he's got all of this, you know, this larger than life kind of character with all of his money, all of his success. So people listen when he talks, but that's the important difference is even if you like Elon Musk, you know, a person you really like can be wrong just as easily as someone you don't like. So it becomes incumbent on the followers of these, you know, celebrities to maybe take some inventory about, you know, what they're agreeing to, I think. But I don't want to eliminate the personal responsibility of the follower in order, you know, to put all the onus on the celebrity to say, you can't say anything that you want to say because all of your minions are going to attack if you know, you should never say that you should attack somebody. But even if they have an opinion you don't agree with, like the followers need to have that personal responsibility in check.
Cody, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to the artist. If they have a good following base and they don't use them as an army, go for it.
I hate to do this.
What do you got?
But getting back to Taylor Swift, this is an election year, okay? And so the conspiracy theories are abounding. Mm-hmm. Not only does she develop this relationship, that relationship happens to win the Super Bowl.
She rigged the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So lots of things coming down in an election cycle, okay? I've been to her concert, and I can personally attest that it is a religion. It is a religion to those that are Swifties. If she would have said, I want you all, she just grabs the mic and said, I want you all right now to slice your wrists. There would have been tens of thousands of little girls in there that would have done that. They are so keyed in to what she says and hang on every word that she says and does everything that she says. And my to going back to what Tom and Cody were saying, if she says vote for Joe Biden or vote for Donald Trump, her minions are probably going to do that. So she carries a lot of weight. Is it with those that love her and treat her like a religion, is that okay? Is that acceptable?
I mean, it's part of the game.
Does it make you mad?
Yeah, it's frustrating when like you've got somebody who can just snap their fingers and gain a ton of support when you think that maybe you're at odds with the way they think and the way they believe. But it's fair. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it, but it can be frustrating.
I think it's just a new form of marketing now. Instead of, you know, like these advertisements, it's now these people that have all of these followers and all of this, you know, like credibility to push around and all this weight where they can just get paid by a company and they'll be endorsed and say, you know, go vote for so-and-so. And then all of a sudden you have this new generation of voters and all these other people who have never considered even voting before because it wasn't something that was interesting to them, now voting because, oh, Taylor Swift said to go do it.
Yep.
What do you think about that? Is that right or is that wrong or is it? What do you think?
But we've seen that though. We've seen that over the years. The rock the vote stuff when they got P. Diddy out there to help you get the vote out. Remember
R.I.P.
that? Yeah. So we've seen them trying to do this influence peddling for years.
Yeah, it's nothing new. I just think it's getting to a larger scale now because of the social media and like the global status of celebrities. But yeah, there's nothing, I don't think, inherently wrong with it. It's just unfortunate if I think the celebrity that has a lot of weight doesn't, you know, play for the team that you want them to.
I think it's a lot of power for one person.
It is.
Yeah, you don't need a network anymore. You do it with your phone. You know, and you get that message out. Where back in the day, you needed a network. You needed TV cameras. You needed somebody to go along.
You needed a platform.
Yeah.
And you needed to build that platform, like a Rush Limbaugh, for example, or a Bill O'Reilly. They had to build a platform over the course of years on a network, and they had their following. Now I can do it on my cell phone.
Yeah, and then I think
or my YouTube channel.
the extension of that argument becomes something we've heard about before is, should the mass communications of social media not be treated like a private company, and should it be regulated,
Like a newspaper?
like a newspaper would be?
Your telephone.
Jump into that a little bit, because you nuanced, this is a legal concept that Tom is talking about. Newspapers are held to a higher standard, especially when it comes to libel and slander. What are you talking about? So why would a YouTube comment section be different legally as a regarding liability for something that's said in that comment section, as opposed to like the New York Times? So if the New York Times runs an article that is later on found to be untrue, and it hurt the person that they wrote about, let's say it's a celebrity, and that celebrity, I don't know, owns a lot of real estate or something like that, and they once ran for president or something, and they wrote an article about that person that was false, and it caused that person to lose a lot of money because of that article. It was detrimental to them. That's what we call slander or libel. The general legal concept is, not only is the New York Times responsible for that, and they're going to be held accountable for that in a court of law, they could be fined, they can, a lot of things can happen to them. But anybody that published what they published after that is also liable. So it's like this chain domino effect. So newspapers are held to a higher standard than a YouTube. Why?
Well, what if it's a letter to the editor? Are you still held to that standard?
That's a good
If
question.
you're publishing somebody
I don't
else's.
think so. No, because that's an opinion.
Okay.
So it's your normal articles that are written.
Well, sorry, just for me, it kind of makes sense because it's like the company is publishing this and they have, articles to choose from. It's not like I can just go to the newspaper and be like, I want to write this specifically. It's going to go through a team of editors. Like, it's going to get filtered to the point where where now it makes sense that the New York Times in this example is putting their kind of seal of approval, saying that yes, this is something that we want to associate with. Whereas a comment section, it doesn't get filtered through anybody. I mean, except like YouTube's like hate and like slander filters, but it just makes sense in that aspect.
Yeah, there's a famous case about the New York Times. It's New York Times v. Sullivan, where like we have some famous case law about libel and slander, and I won't get into too much of the nitty gritty because honestly I couldn't pull all of the facts off the top of my head. But in summary, the case is about the New York Times having to setting case law precedent that makes future publishers have to prove that they knew that something was a lie, and they published it anyway, and it was detrimental to the person's livelihood or character. So there's this onus that's put on somebody who thinks they've had something bad said about them to be able to prove that not only was that not true, but you knew it wasn't true and you published it anyway to my detriment. And that's a pretty high standard to hold.
So you've probably heard, those that are listening, of this Section 230. This is thrown around a lot in the legislature federally, because when it comes to social media platforms such as YouTube or Twitter, now X, Truth Social, they have an exemption from this libel or slander type ruling that the New York Times is subject to, the LA Times, the Yuma Sun. They are all subject to libel and slander claims if they're knowingly publishing something that's false. So that's why from time to time, if they find out that they did something false, they have to print a retraction, or they're going to face some sort of probably legal repercussions. Not that some boogeyman's going to file an action against them. It's the person that you hurt or that you slandered. They have the impetus to come, or it has to start with them. The genesis starts with them bringing an action against that actor, like the New York Times or the LA Post or whatever. And when it comes to YouTube, social media, our legislature has said, well, commenters on True Social or on X or on YouTube is not going to subject those companies to liability like New York Times would be held, because in under the idea that Section 230 exempts those types of organizations because they don't have control. They can't control what an individual gets on. They're just a platform. They're not a publisher. That's really what it comes down to. And so that's their kind of scapegoat. That's why Facebook, X, they all claim well, we're exempt. We can't be held liable for somebody saying something wrong or hateful on our platforms. The problem becomes, or what we've seen in this last election cycle, in my opinion, is that when that private actor becomes their own sensory board and they become the arbiters of what's true and what's not true and what they're going to release to us as a public or what they're going to edit or not edit, that's a challenge. Now, to me, you've crossed the line. Now you are a publisher.
Right.
You're either going to let the free flow of ideas and not get engaged in that. And that's what Elon Musk was saying. When he bought X or Twitter, he said, no, this is a platform. We're not going to censor. We're not going to determine who has good ideas and who has bad ideas. We're going to let it all flow. That is a true platform that would be idea that would be under Section 230. Once you, in my opinion, once you cross the line, you say, no, we are going to crack down on hate speech. We're going to crack down on this, that, or the other. Now you're a publisher. Now you're determining what I get to see or what I believe in reality.
I think too, like just for a basic analogy, before we go to break here, is it's like if you had a megaphone, for example, and you let your buddy borrow it and say, hey, with this megaphone you can speak a lot louder, more people can hear you, but I don't want you to say anything I don't agree with, then you have the right to take that megaphone from him. Or if he starts spewing something that you don't believe, you say, hey, give me my megaphone back, you can't use it. And that's essentially originally what social media was compared to, is this is just a way to have a louder voice that reaches more people. But now, when we're talking about it got so big to where we can turn elections, now the question becomes, can you still regulate it in the same way?
And what do you think about that?
Yeah, previously I wanted to have that principled approach that, hey, no, this is private. This is a private entity. It's their megaphone. They can have people use it how they want. But now when you see the repercussions, it makes you take pause. So I really don't know what the answer is anymore.
We've got to go to break. We'll talk about this a little bit more when we come back. This is Life, Death, and the Law.
Coming up, more thought-provoking conversations on life, death, and the law right after this.